going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Tavern Talk here on the Hammer Dance Gaming channel. We're almost at 1,000 subs on this second channel, and I am super pumped. But today, we're going to be talking about something a little bit more interesting, a little bit fun. We're going to be making our own tier list for Classic WoW Hardcore. Now, as you all know, Classic WoW Hardcore is on the rise. There's some rumors of possible official servers coming from Blizzard. We're getting an announcement this Saturday, so we'll see what that is. I will be covering it here on the channel. But for anyone who doesn't know, Tavern Talk are my segments on the channel talking about Classic WoW. As you guys know, this is a gaming channel. I talk about any games that I'm really interested in. Main two games right now being Classic WoW, which I've always been interested in, and Escape from Tarkov. Two very different games, but you know what? I like them, and I'm here to make content on what I enjoy talking about. But anyways, guys, without further ado, let's make our tier list so I can help you guys choose the right class in Classic WoW Hardcore. Okay, so for starters, we have Druid up here. Okay, so for starters, we're basing this off of a few things, right? We're going to go off of leveling speed, ease of leveling, meaning, you know, you have an easy time taking on 1, 2, maybe even 3 mobs if you get in a big bind. You know, being able to heal yourself, and basically hybrid classes, in my opinion, are kind of up there on the list. Yes, they're lower on damage and stuff like that, but I'm going to place Druid up here in A tier because after you get cat form, it does get way easier, and I've done this myself. I leveled a Druid into the 20s, and Druid, in my opinion, is very slow at the start, and you are at a high level of danger from 1 to 10. However, once you get bear form, it's not really hard. It's just kind of boring because all you're doing is auto-attacking and using maul. But it does get easier, and then when you get cat form, it gets even easier. And then think about a level 30, you get travel form, so the speed at which you can level is quite fast because now you're basically almost have a mount at level 30, whereas other classes don't really have that. Yes, shamans get Ghost Wolf at 20, but travel form is faster than Ghost Wolf. So I'm gonna, for my tier list, I would place Druids at A, but keep in mind getting to level 10 or getting to level 20 is not that easy. You're wearing leather, so you get slapped by melee mobs pretty hard, but you do have heals, you have hots, and then you get bear form. It's a little bit slow to level, but it's definitely one of the safer picks in my opinion. Now, next up here, we have Hunter. This is a pretty controversial one, but I think we can all agree on one thing, that Hunter deserves to be in S tier. And that's simply because you get a pet, you have super high damage output, you have feigned death, you have traps, you can easily manipulate and control any situations where you're in the slightest amount of danger, and just the speed at which they level. I mean, you have a pet, you could basically send your pet in and macro it to your auto attacks and just auto attack mobs until you're blue in the face and grind that way, and it's not as boring as leveling a Druid 1 to 10. It's not the most exhilarating thing in the world, but it's very, very safe. But there's one thing about Hunters, and I did play a Hunter as well, and that's that you get this Hunter overconfidence, right? And you'll start pulling 2, 3, 4 mobs, and you know, because you feel like you can, and you really can, but what happens is you forget about respawns. And my Hunter died. I think I was level 22, 23. And I will be playing a Hunter again. But yeah, you get this Hunter overconfidence and you die to something silly like that. And it's kind of upsetting, to be honest. It really is. But yeah, so Hunter I would place up at S tier. Now, next up on the list, we have Mage. Mage, in my opinion, is a solid pick for hardcore. You have tons of control. You have slows, you have snares, you have roots, you can craft your own food and water, you have polymorph, you have blink, you have ice barrier, you have mana shield, you have ice block. There are a million different ways for you to get out of trouble on a mage and control the battlefield. So in my opinion, Mage gets put up in A tier. Simply because it's not as fast to level as a Hunter unless you're AoE grinding, but if you're AoE grinding, that's a little scary to be doing in hardcore because if you get a couple of Frost Nova resists, might be going down. So Mage, in my opinion, goes in A tier, and I do think it's going to be in front of Druid. So next on the list here, we have Paladin. Paladin's a pretty safe pick, very similar to Druid in regards to that you're just auto-attacking, really. You're not a DPS class by any means, but it is very safe. You're wearing plate armor, You could even level as Prot if you really wanted to be even more safe. You have heals, you have lay on hands. You know, you can't bubble hearth, that's against the rules, but you do have a bubble. So, you know, you have an immunity to get out of any trouble that you seem to get in, but it probably is one of the slower classes to level past level 20. So this Paladin, in my opinion, is going to be A tier, and it's going to be behind Druid. Now, Priest. Priest is another one that is very easy. You are literally bubbling yourself and wanding. You're throwing Shadow Word Pain up, and you're wanding 4 days. You can just wand your way all the way to level 60, and you really are never in any danger. You have a fear if you need to get out of it. You have so many heals. You have hots. Like I said, you have your bubble. And Holy Fire at low levels is really, really strong. Even up at higher levels, it's super strong. So, you know, you'll Holy Fire, Shadow Word Pain, and just wand. And mobs tend to die, you know, 5 to 10 seconds in. So that's another one that's a pretty good class for leveling in hardcore. And I would say Priest would be A tier. And I would also say it's right above the Mage. Just because of the fact that I think Priest is definitely the safest after Hunter. You have so many ways to keep yourself alive. You have decent damage that's pretty AFK. So in terms of easy leveling, I think Priest would be A tier and top of the A tier at that, and then Mage right behind that. And now looking at this list as I'm making it, I'm going to make some changes. I'm going to say since Priest and Mage are A tier, I'm going to actually drop Druid and Pally down to B tier. Just because they're not bad, but they're not going to be as easy or as good to level as Priest and Mage. Now we have Rogue up next, right? So you're melee, you wear leather armor, you could get slapped pretty hard by other melee mobs, but you do a good amount of damage, you kill stuff pretty quick, and you have stealth, right? You can get around with stealth, you can avoid things that are dangerous, you have sap, you have your poisons, and if you take alchemy and combine that with Rogue, it's probably such a strong pick. So in my opinion, I'm going to take Rogue, and Rogue is also going to be A tier. And I think Rogue might actually be right behind Mage here in A tier. So next up on the list here, we have Shaman. I personally haven't played Shaman, but I've watched a lot of people play Shaman. And I have seen a lot of other tier lists. But Shaman, in my opinion, is going to kind of be as similar to Paladin. You have decent damage, you have decent heals, you are wearing leather armor until 40, and then you can switch over to mail, but you have totems, right? And your totems are going to give you tons of buffs, so many good things that can help you out and keep you alive and buff you up. You know, it's not as beneficial as playing it in a regular classic server. When you're on hardcore, you're not grouping as often, you know, you get to do your dungeons once, so your totems are not really benefiting other people as much, but it is a decent pick, but I personally am going to throw Shaman down into C tier because I don't think it's as strong of a pick as Druid and Paladin for hardcore. So next up on the list here, we have Warlock, right? Warlock, in my opinion, is super strong in hardcore, very underrated, right? Very similar to Hunter. You have pets that are going to tank for you. You have the dot system. You're just throwing up your dots. You put Corruption, Curse of Agony, throw Immolate up on a mob, and you're going to wand, send your Voidwalker in, and it's going to do all the work for you in terms of keeping aggro, and as long as you're not spamming Shadow Bolts, it's going to hold that threat pretty well, and you're going to be pretty safe. So, in my opinion, Warlock is going to be up in S tier right behind Hunter. And now, last but not least, Warrior. In terms of being a fun class to level, fun class to play, this is my main class, right? I always play Warrior in Classic. It's my #1 class. I love it. Warrior is D tier. Let's just be real here. It's fun to level. It is by no means fast past level 20. It's extremely gear dependent. So in hardcore now, you know, you have to remember you're using only drops that you find, gear that you craft. You're not able to trade gear with other players or use the auction house or anything like that. So whatever you're crafting, whatever you're gaining from quests or finding out in the world in chests or off mobs, that's what you're able to use. So that makes Warrior a little bit harder to level because you don't have that crazy like twink gear while you're leveling from dungeons and things like that. So Warrior really has no escape. So if you do get yourself into a bind, you're relying on in-game items and potions to keep yourself alive and try and get out of trouble, which means that Warrior is definitely the hardest class to level in hardcore. There's people that argue that it's really easy to level a warrior, but that's only true, I think, until around level 15 to 20. Once mobs start having a little bit more health, it does get a lot harder, and it's way easier to die on a warrior than any of these other classes on the tier list. You don't have heals. You really don't have any escapes. Like I said, you have a fear. You have hamstring to maybe kite one mob, but if you accidentally aggro 3 mobs that are slowing you, snaring you, you could pretty much kiss your run goodbye and get ready to go again. So warrior, in my opinion, would be D tier. But anyways, guys, this is my tier list. We have S tier is hunter and warlock. A tier we have priest, mage, rogue. B tier we have druid, paladin. C tier shaman. D tier warrior. I want to know what you guys think about this down in the comments below. This is my personal tier list, right? This is not set in stone, but I've been playing WoW for 16 years at this point and played almost every single class pretty far into vanilla, and this would be my tier list. I want to know, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, how you feel about this tier list. But anyways, guys, that's all I've got for you today. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Turn on post notifications. We're so close to that 1,000 subscriber mark on this second channel. I'm really excited. And if you guys want to hang on me live, I stream on Twitch Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern time at twitch.tv/hammerdance. I'll drop a link to that in the description below this video. But anyways, guys, that's all from me. I'll see you all in the next one.